If you're ready for an amazing call, an amazing day, say yes!
Yes!
Yes.
Yes.
I want to hear you say yes one more time, like there's 20 people on the line. Say yes!
Yes.
Woo! Make the sound of unstoppable intensity!
Woo!
All right, everyone. I am excited today. I really am. We have some new people on the line, and there's so many people we can't even go over the list on, but I'm sure a bunch of you are. So we can post about it later on our group. And you know what? So many people on the line, and this is exactly why I felt so scared this morning when I woke up. I'm here in Tel Aviv in Israel, and one of the things I realized after all the posts of the new people saying, yes, I'm excited, I'm going to wake up today, I'm going to get on this call, and everybody who heard about it and said that they were going to be on today. And I realized that our schedule for today was empty. Yes. I looked at that and I said, oh, my God, everybody's sleeping, and our schedule is empty, and we don't have anybody to lead these 20 people who are calling in. And I realized this, and my mind starts going in so many directions. And I say, how can I be doing this? How can I be so responsible? You know, I'm responsible for this. But I have a great excuse, right? I had to host 2 calls yesterday for the people on the 100-day challenge. So if I have a great excuse, that's going to be good enough, right? So I'm going to call in. I'm going to tell everyone, hey, guess what? There's nobody leading, but I have a great excuse, okay? And there's nobody leading because I had to lead yesterday, okay? Great, so have a good day, bye. But no, it's not what I'm going to do. What I actually decided to do instead of that was to be insanely vulnerable and to take the half an hour that I had before the call and the 5 minutes that I was late for this call and prepare this call for you. And just like some I've been on a call of mine where I led the call even though I was upset that day. So I led the call about being upset and what I do in order to resolve that. Then today I decided that because I have to be vulnerable and lead a call even though I'm not prepared, that I was going to lead it on vulnerability. And that is our subject for today. And one of the things that I really, really love about the subject of vulnerability, besides the fact that there's so much to talk about and explore on this subject, is that there is an incredible TED lecture. If you guys are not familiar with TED, Ideas Worth Spreading, then check it out, TED.com. Amazing lectures and like 20-minute talks that are incredible. I had the privilege myself of actually organizing a TED event 2 years ago, but that's a whole other talk. And Brene Brown is a researcher. She studies human connection, which is pretty awesome. And she led a talk on TED about vulnerability and the power of vulnerability. She wrote numerous books around this subject, and they are awesome. So definitely get it on your reading list, and I'll share it on the group later. And I'm going to sum up a little bit of what she said and even quote a little bit of what she said because I think that this subject is just so inspiring. And then I want us to have a few minutes to discuss the subject and see where you guys feel that, you know, it resonates with you and how you can use vulnerability to get yourself to the next level of life. And so, like I said, Brene Brown was basically researching and studying human connection, and she did this for 10 years. And one of the things, while she was studying human connection, she noticed that there was something there that she always kept falling back to, and that was shame. Shame was just something that kept bothering her in her research. So she decided to explore what this shame thing was. And she saw that the way that you can understand shame is kind of the fear of disconnection. Almost like, you know, how we all tell ourselves, I'm not good enough. We all know that feeling, right? I'm not blank enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not smart enough, etc. So all these things are they relate to excruciating vulnerability. So she understood that shame and fear kind of connected her that in order to achieve connection, true connection, we need vulnerability. Anyway, she explored this shame idea for around 6 years, and she got into all kinds of interviews and all kinds of things. And she basically saw that that everything in her research split into two categories of people. Now, there were people who have a sense of worthiness, love, and belonging. And then there were the people who really struggle for it, the ones who really feel like they're not good enough. And she had to get to the bottom of that, She had to understand what that difference was between the people who have a sense of worthiness, love, and connection and belonging, and those people who struggle and feel like they're not good enough. And you know what the difference is? She realized that the people who have a strong sense of love and belonging, they believe that they're worthy of love and belonging. That's all it is. And that was crazy to her, right? Because only believing that they were worthy of love and connection actually made them people who had a strong sense of belonging. And so she took this category of people, those who really believed that they had a sense of love and belonging, and she called them the wholehearted, and she looked at what they have in common. And she realized what they have in common was a sense of courage. And the word courage, it comes from the word cur, which means heart in Latin. And that means to tell your story with your whole heart. So these people had the courage, basically, to be imperfect. And they had a compassion to be kind to themselves first and then to others. And we can't really be compassionate to other people if we're not kind to ourselves first. So that's what they had. And then she realized they also had connection. And they had connection because they had true vulnerability. Authenticity. Okay, so they were so authentic that they were willing to let go of who they should be in order to be who they were. And I love that. I wrote that down in block letters, The willingness to let go of who you should be in order to be who you are. That's authenticity. And it provides connection. So far, we've recognized that these people, the wholehearted as she calls them, right, they have a few things in common. We said courage, we said compassion, and we said connection. But then there was one more thing they all have in common, and that was vulnerability, which is the subject of this call. They all fully embrace vulnerability. They believed that what made them vulnerable made them beautiful. They saw it as necessary to have vulnerability, like the willingness to say, I love you first, or like the willingness to do something when there are no guarantees. Then she sent something out on Twitter and Facebook that said, how do you define vulnerability? What makes you feel vulnerable? And within about an hour and a half, she got 150 responses. And she wanted to know what's out there. And people said, having to ask my husband for help because I'm sick and we're newly married, or initiating sex with my husband, or initiating sex with my wife, or being turned down, or asking someone out, or waiting for the doctor to call back, or getting laid off, or laying off people. And that's the world we live in. We live in a vulnerable world. And one of the ways that we deal with it is we numb vulnerability. And there's evidence, right? We're the most in-debt, obese, addicted, and medicated adult cohort in history. And the problem is that you cannot selectively numb emotion. You can't say, here's the bad stuff, here's vulnerability, here's grief, here's shame, here's fear, here's disappointment. I don't want to feel these. You can't numb those hard feelings without numbing the other effects, our emotions. You can't selectively numb. So when we numb those, we numb joy, we numb gratitude, we numb happiness, and then we're miserable, and we're looking for purpose and meaning, and then we feel vulnerable. So then we have a couple of beers and a banana nut muffin, and it becomes this dangerous cycle. The other thing we do is we make everything that's uncertain certain. So religion has gone off from belief and faith and mystery to kind of certainty. I'm right, you're wrong, shut up. That's it, just certain. The more afraid we are, the more vulnerable we are, and then the more afraid we are. This is what politics looks like today. So there's no discourse anymore. There's no conversation. There's just blame. You know how blame is described in research? A way to discharge pain and discomfort. We perfect, but there's another way. And I'll leave you with this. This is what she found. To let ourselves be seen, deeply seen, vulnerably seen. To love with our whole hearts, even though there's no guarantee. To practice gratitude and joy in those moments of terror when we're wondering, can I love you this much? Can I believe in this so passionately? Can I be this fierce about this? Just to be able to stop and instead of catastrophizing what might happen, to say, I'm so grateful. Because to feel this vulnerable means I'm alive. And the last, which is probably the most important, is to believe that we're enough. Because when we work from a place that says, I'm enough, then we stop screaming and start listening. We're kinder and gentler to the people around us, and then we're kinder and gentler to ourselves. And that's the end of the quote from Brene Brown's lecture and talk. And when I listened to it, I was mesmerized. And I went on to read her books and to watch her other talk, which, by the way, her next talk was about the shame and vulnerability that she felt when she gave this talk. And how nervous she was about putting it out there, because it's the moment that she put it out there and she did the talk and got off stage, all of a sudden she was in panic mode. She was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I just exposed myself like that and talked about vulnerability. That was the most vulnerable thing I ever did, and it's going to be catastrophical, and I'm going to get the worst ratings ever. And she got scared to death. But then because it was such a vulnerable talk about vulnerability, she got the best reviews that are there possible. And she's today, her talk is one of the top 10 talks of all time on TED. And I take this lesson to my own life, and I remind myself in a lot of places, especially business and you know, my personal life, to bring vulnerability in when possible. Like leading this call even though I'm not ready, to be willing to jump in, you know, and find quotes and find the things and do it in 2 minutes, and to tell you guys, you know what, not to make it pretty and not to worry about looking good, but to say, hey guys, I wasn't ready, and maybe inspire you guys to somewhere where you're in a place like that, you know, in life, maybe preferably in even more important situations. And you're not ready, or there's something there that might prevent you from taking the next step and going and acting on something that's truly important to you. If there's an opportunity and you don't feel like you're perfect enough or good enough or pretty enough or whatever it is, you know, hopefully it inspires you to go out there and take that step anyway. And not to be ashamed or embarrassed, to admit that that's what you are. To, again, like the other sentence said, to be willing to let go of who you should be in order to be who you are, and to fully embrace what is that is present for you at that moment, and to communicate that authentically. So that's it. Thank you for listening. I want to hear from you guys what you got out of it, or maybe which situations in your life you used vulnerability to your benefit, or where you feel that it's stopping you. And maybe if you take that step and are willing to be vulnerable, where you think it can contribute to your success.
Yali, that was awesome. I just think I want to give you a round of applause. Like, that was amazing.
Thank you. I always love a round of applause, so feel free.
Woo! Woo! Yali, I think we all can agree that you're amazing. Like, these calls would not be happening if it wasn't for you, and I think we all know that. You're the one that makes these calls happen. Like, this is I Inspire, right? And, like, they might be called UPW morning calls, but it's really I Inspire. And you have inspired me. Like, these calls have inspired me to be vulnerable enough to post that I'm going through hell. You know what I mean? But I'm still getting up. I love what you said today in your post. You said time to get up and pull the covers over your head, because vulnerability is huge to me, and it's fear, like that 4-letter word, fear, like the uncertainty of the unknown. And I don't know, I've just been looking at body language and doing so focused on my goals that, like, my little girl, what you said in the beginning of the call, like, if we raised a generation to say I'm imperfect, but, you know, that's okay, you know, and just to forgive ourselves and to let ourselves be who we are. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. And these calls, by the way, I'm the initiator, and I'll take the credit for initiating, you know, making them, allowing you guys to lead them. But without, you know, some people joining in on that idea and helping me, you know, make that happen, and without you guys stepping up and leading, and that's something that might put you in a vulnerable place as well. These calls couldn't happen. So I really want to thank you guys, and also encourage the ones that haven't been leading to open up the schedule on the top of our Facebook group, and to step up and schedule yourselves for a talk on any subject that inspires you, or anything that comes to mind, or at least request us to speak about something that you feel inspires you. You could just open the schedule and literally just list yourselves up as leaders on a call. Who else wants to share?
I can say one thing that I do in my life on a daily basis is I do martial arts. And so I find myself in vulnerable places, like extremely vulnerable places quite often. And it's not the same kind of fear as I'm not being good enough for this or that. It's the kind of fear that I'm going to get legitimately hurt if I don't figure out this problem right now. And, you know, obviously we can tap out and everything, but it doesn't take away from that crushing fear that's experienced quite often. When I first started this, I was a very different person. I was, you know, mentally immature. I was very insecure in myself, and I went through a lot of things, you know, just, you know, those growing pains of just being unsure. Once I started doing martial arts, however, and I learned how capable I actually was in powering through and problem solving and knowing when you're in a situation where it's either do or die, you figure it out. And so I do credit a lot of that to just finding my way through, for one thing, just finding my way there without giving up, sticking through. Also, it led me to Tony Robbins, and it led me to UPW. And I can't without a doubt say that I'm not the same person I was before I started it. And so I'm really glad that this was our conversation that we talked about today, because I think vulnerability, putting yourself out there and finding your way through is a very powerful catalyst for change in our lives. So I really appreciate being on board with this talk today, and I think you did a great job.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing that. That's an awesome, awesome example. It's awesome. Who else feels like they want to change? Like they want to share? Sorry. Somebody vulnerable.
I will start.
Say your name before you start talking, just so that it's clear to everyone who you are.
Okay, my name. So you can go ahead first. Yeah.
Okay, Heather can go first.
Okay. Yeah, this is Heather. I just finished a night shift, and I just kind of experienced something like this that we're talking about a little bit. I had a kind of tough call at work, and I work in emergency services, and right after, like, it wasn't, might not have been like a really obvious tough call to a lot of people, but I was feeling kind of affected by it. And I kind of just walked down the hall and then came back, and then I just realized I think it'd be better if I just kind of acknowledged to someone that I wasn't feeling good about that. And I think it's really tough to admit to people sometimes when you feel like you're not quite up to scratch, or that you're affected by something, or you're emotionally having a tough time. But I decided, okay, in the past I probably would never have said that I was having a bit of a tough time, but today I just decided to say that was a really draining call. That was, and I thought it might open up like this floodgate, but it didn't. It just opened a small conversation where someone said, okay, what's going on? And I said, this and that. And then they were like, okay, if you need me later, I'm here. And then I felt better. And it didn't turn into this catastrophe of that I kind of envisioned, that if I open that kind of gate vulnerability, that, it's all downhill from here. It actually relieved some of the pressure that I'm dealing with it by myself. And it actually lifted some of that pressure and made me feel a lot better. So I do think it's really important to be vulnerable, because it does keep you authentic, because there was a lot you said about authenticity in there. And if you're not expressing what you're feeling at any given time, then you're generally not being very authentic. So if you can learn to just observe and express your emotions as they're happening, and it doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing, but just to be realistic about them with people, then you're really living a really authentic life. And I feel like this morning I really benefited from being vulnerable with a friend there, and I encourage people to try it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks for sharing that. It's awesome. And I think that I totally can relate to the fact that you're saying that vulnerability has that way of kind of surprising you. Yeah, sometimes you'll be vulnerable and no big, huge gain will come out of it. But then you're not losing anything too much. The thing is that sometimes you'll be vulnerable and it'll surprise you how much better you end up feeling and how relieving it is, like you're saying. And, I have a small, tiny example, like my first day on a leadership course I did with Landmark here in Israel. I had attended, and we were about 40, 50 new participants there, and we didn't know anyone, but we spent the day together, and some people already came on stage and started speaking, and I was one of them. And we went to lunch, and at the lunch break, this girl walks up to me, and she says, I'm really afraid to say this, but I feel like I have to be authentic with you. And I said, okay, sure, what? You can tell me anything. And she says, I hate you. And I said, well, you don't even know me. How can you hate me already? And she said, I just have to tell you, like, I hate you. I can't help it. I'm jealous. You walked up on stage and you stole the show, and I felt like because I'm pregnant, like I can't be that person right now, and you're taking my place. And so I look at you and I hate you, and I don't feel like having you here. Like I wish you weren't here. And that takes a lot to say that. And she didn't say it in a mean way either. She just said it in a very vulnerable way. Very authentic and vulnerable way. And when she said it, I looked at her, and that was the most touching thing that I ever heard. Not only was it kind of a compliment, but seeing her able to say that, and not in a way that she felt like being mean to me, but in a way that she really just wanted to express herself. This was a leadership course at Landmark, and it's all about authenticity and about sharing. And I found that so brave and extremely amazing that, you know, it opened up a whole conversation with her about me and my past, and that I was overweight, and I didn't always feel like people could look at me and I could, you know, be that person in the room, and how much of a compliment that was. And her being vulnerable ended up gaining her a friendship that we're now best friends. You guys, some of you guys know her, Jana. She's my accountability buddy and my best friend. And best friends since that day until today for 1.5 years. And we wouldn't have gained each other if she wasn't vulnerable enough to come out and say it like it was. She could have ended up, you know, hating me behind my back and not being authentic about it. So it has that surprising factor where not only is it relieving and not as bad as you think it would be to be authentic and vulnerable, but it can actually, you know, bring a lot of really, really good surprises your way.
Mhm. Wow, that's really cool. It's a great story.
Thanks. Who else wants to share? We have a bunch of people on the line. Please be vulnerable enough to share, even if it's something that you feel, you know, you're not willing to do in your life, where it stops you.
I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Yasmin, and I'm a first-time caller. And
morning.
Woo!
Thank you for that wonderful, wonderful talk you gave. And honestly, it's amazing how the universe brings you the right thing at the right time. I needed to hear this morning so bad. Over the weekend, I was challenged with a situation that I wasn't expecting. I don't want to go into details, but I think a lot of vulnerability has to do with your background and your culture and how you were raised. And for someone, I think I'm a little older than the others, I feel. It's very hard to open up and say, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable. And what, you know, all the you had mentioned from the TED Talk that you had heard are so true, but acting on them and doing them, the courage to find that is the key. And that's where I feel I'm trying to take that step, but it was like the universe wanted me to hear this, to take that step, to be vulnerable and to bring out what I am doing even right now. And it's very
That's amazing, yes, man. First of all, it's amazing that you're sharing it, because I think that once you put it out there, it shows your commitment to actually, you know, doing something about it. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
That is awesome. So what do you think is going to happen?
I have to be vulnerable, not to be shameful for a situation that I'm facing in life, and I have to move beyond that. I have to go through this threshold of shame, and you know, so. And in fact, I was passing it to my son. I sent him a text and I said, "Don't share it with your newlywed wife. Trust me, don't." But that was wrong. He should share it. And you know, in order to get rid of it, you have to share it. You have to bring it out, because, as you said, your other feelings will get numb if you try to numb this.
Exactly. And also remember that, you know, those who have the courage are just basically those that, you know, they feel like they're worthy of love and connection no matter what they say and what they do. And, you know, and they're compassionate to themselves.
Yeah, but then, sorry to interrupt, but then the fear of the cultural differences that some cultures don't allow this comes out. And that's where it all gets knotted into pain. I don't know if I'm trying to, you know. because in some cultures it's not acceptable. You have to have a certain look. You have to have a certain amount of money. You have to have a certain way of life.
But
and
who's telling you that?
Sorry?
It's a story. I'm sorry. It feels like a story that you keep telling yourself about the cultural differences. Like you can't act a certain way. When really, I think what you said was beautiful. Like it's honesty. Raw honesty is so beautiful to me. It's the most beautiful thing in the world, and I love myself. And, like, it took a long time for me to be able to say I love myself with the tingling feeling that, like, I love another. And, like, when you love yourself like that, you can overcome things like this. And I just feel like sometimes it's a story that you tell yourself over and over again, well, you can't do that because of cultural differences. But maybe if he was honest or honesty, maybe it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, you're right. I have to put that story aside and face it, and yeah.
And it's not just a story. It's not just a story because if it's been culturally passed down from your mother and your mother's mother, it's a program that you decided to take from your parents. So it's not even just a story. It's a program that you were programmed by your parents, and that's something that we all have to deal with, especially in the culture. You know, because we talked about this on Saturday, and there are culture differences where parents, the old school, the old-fashioned parents, especially from the old countries, act a certain way, and they program their kids a certain way because that's how they were programmed. But that doesn't make it right. You know,
Exactly.
There's power in the vulnerability, but it's not weakness. It's a power. It's a strong power that we don't really tap into because we've been taught as a culture or people or as men that it's a weakness. That when you cry and when you feel, it's a weakness. And that's not right. It's powerful. Being vulnerable is more powerful than almost anything out there. You know, there's so much strength in being vulnerable. And
that's why
trained.
It's more difficult, you know.
Yeah, we've been trained. In some cultures or even genders, we've been trained as men that we have to be strong, not cry, not feel, not show your emotions. We've been trained that way. We've been programmed. So it's not just a story. It's a deep embedded program that the culture has put inside of us and that we have to rewrite because we don't want to pass this program down to other people. We don't want to pass this program down to the next generation.
That's awesome. And don't forget to say your name, guys, because we don't know who.
Oh, this is Ricardo.
Oh, Ricardo.
Hi, Ricardo.
Right. Thank you.
Hey, Ricardo.
And it was Carolyn before. And what I want to do, because we have to near the end of the call, we're 5 minutes late. I want to ask you, Yasmin. Like, I think that the next step that could lead to, I don't know if to call it transformation, but at least to lead to a breakthrough here in this area for you is to commit to something, to schedule something, like when are you going to do what you're doing and have us support you and keep you accountable to that if you'd like it. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I would love that.
Oh, perfect. So take a deep breath for a moment and just think of when and what you're going to do. You don't have to share the whole thing with us, but just think of when. And tell me when you're going to take the next step and be vulnerable and open that up, and also when you're going to share that with your son.
I think with
when
my
are you
son,
committed?
with my son, I will do it today. I have to tell him, forget the text I send you, and if you want to share what the family shared during the weekend, you can share with her, and whatever her reaction is, it's okay. I'm going to do that.
Amazing. Amazing. Round of applause for that.
That's right.
I think she deserves it.
But
I love it. And what about you?
Myself, I have to make a big decision, and that one I need your help and support probably. I don't even want to do that.
We will, but I want you to think right now what seems like would be powerful for you as a frame of time. And I know we all have the procrastinator factor, but I also don't want to put too much pressure on you if you feel like you need a little bit of adjustment around that and support. However, how much, when does it seem like it's going to be far enough that you're not willing to wait it out that long? And I hope it's not a very far away time. I want you to choose that, that time until which you want this result. And we'll support you in making that happen.
It's funny you ask this because I was asking this all last night and I didn't sleep well. I think I can give myself time till May or June to make a big decision in my life.
Yes.
May or June.
And you're gonna make
How about if I challenge you to do it even a little sooner?
Go ahead.
How about if you have you heard of the 100-day challenge that we're on? See, you can't join the 100-day challenge anymore because it's closed. But we can take that frame of time for you if you'd like, and we can do a little 100-day challenge for you of your own, and we can support you on that. How does that sound for you?
Scary, but wonderful.
Okay, awesome. So are you willing to commit to making that change within 100 days and being vulnerable enough to share the goal with us, at least to an extent that we can help you and build milestones together that we can help you accomplish?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. I think that deserves a real round of applause too. Yasmin,
Yes.
Let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate transforming by being vulnerable. Woo! Woo! All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Yasmin, and thank you for being willing to be, so open and so committed and really representing, what our work is all about, and what self-development is about. It's about making change and progress, and you'll see that just working on this goal is going to make you happier throughout and sleep better for sure, because that's what it's about, right? Tony Robbins says happiness is progress.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Thank
you.
So thank you all for participating on this call, and I want you, wherever you guys are, to just shake it out again, just wherever you are. Take a deep breath. Inhale through your nose and exhale. And do that again slowly. Just inhale through your nose and exhale. And get ready to rock it out till you leave this call. And just make your move and say yes. Yes.